Hello, good afternoon. Simon Thomas, Managing Director of Ridgefield Consulting.
Helen Thomas, CEO of Blonde Money.
And I'm sure Rishi is still
talking
getting really gassed.
He is.
Because I think he's in...
It's his last comment as Leader of the Opposition before the new person takes over this weekend. So look, there was a lot to get through in that budget. A very classic Labour budget by the looks of what we're picking up here. So, Simon?
Well, I think, look, you know, in terms of... for our benefit, we really want to concentrate on some of the tax side of it because there was so much in there. So I think we'll just go through them and maybe anything particularly we want to add or summarise, we'll do so at the end.
Yeah,
So, first one, I think if we get the... Well, let's start with income tax, which they're doing nothing on. But it's a bit of a stealth tax in terms of what you call fiscal drag, that they're not going to change the personal allowances, which is obviously the free bit of income that you earn.
So basically, they inherited from Jeremy Hunt that the thresholds at which you pay certain levels of income tax would stay where they are for the next 3 years. There was a thought she might extend it into the full 5 years in the Parliament, but she's not going to do that.
No.
So in a way, it's a bit of a funny one. She's removed a stealth tax.
Yeah, technically in the future.
In the future, if she sticks to it. But that's kind of...
Yeah, it's always one
for everyone, potentially.
Yeah. Although it does technically, if there's no inflationary increase, it's always,
actually that's a good point.
If there
isn't any inflation, then
in the time value of money. So it's a difficult one to determine. But I think we do need to mention income tax in a budget, even though it's apparently nothing's happened. And also, we thought there might have been changes to dividend tax, but there haven't been.
No. So now what has changed?
Right, CGT is the next one, I think, capital gains tax, which there have been a number of changes to. Basically, the rates have gone up for everything apart from residential property, which have remained the same. But the main one in there, which we thought they were going to tinker with, is going to be what was entrepreneurs relief or business asset disposal relief, as it's more commonly or been known for the last couple of years.
It's currently 10%.
Well, yes. So, sorry, the other rates are going to go up to, base rates are going to go up to 18%, but the 10% entrepreneurs relief is going to go up to 14% next year and 18% in the following year. So basically, they are getting rid of it in 2 years' time.
Yeah. So in 2 years' time, business asset disposal relief be the same rate as capital gains tax
at the lower rates.
At the lower rates. So 18%. So capital gains 10% to 18% at the
for entrepreneurs.
Basic rate. No.
Oh, for the basic rate's gone up to 18 anyway. Yeah.
And then a 20% rate's gone to 24% on capital gains, which is not quite as bad as some had expected, but still going up.
Perhaps no, but the thing was that they were going to bin business asset disposal relief, and they technically are, but they're giving us a couple of years grace on it. What does that really mean? It's in terms of mainly probably selling your businesses and attracting that favourable rate of tax. I mean, some people have been looking at selling their businesses if they're in that position, before this budget. So perhaps get on with it if you're almost at that stage in your career.
Okay. Next one.
Right. Inheritance tax, which obviously always confuses everybody, and it's all so complicated.
And it affects so few people.
The main rate is the 325, the 500, the bits on your house, and the mill, and nothing's changed with all of that. All of that is still the same.
But
now, what has changed is, and I think the biggest thing that's going to affect the day-to-day person is probably this potential. The tax on pensions.
She was saying where a pension is inherited into the estate, then that will come into inheritance tax calculations. Where it was previously was outside the scope. So I mean, that could be a big hit on. It could be a big hit on using the surviving spouse, whoever it is, and it's let's just say it's £1 million. It might end up being 600,000 that they get. It could be that could actually. She sort of really tried to gloss over that one a bit. Yeah, she didn't talk very long about that. The other bits to inheritance tax were agricultural property relief and the business asset disposal. So
trying to keep this really simple.
Yeah.
You used basically as an example, it was like if you've got a business and you're passing it on, but you had loads of cash in the business, the revenue would say, "Are you really? Is you really holding the cash, or do you need that for working capital management?" And there was a bit of a grey area. You'd have a dispute about it or an argument, a conversation, and if they thought there was too much cash there, they'd restrict the IHT by 50%.
Mm-hmm.
What they're now saying is they're now saying for anything that's over a value of £1 million, it's just going to get restricted. And same with the AIM investments.
AIM, farming, agricultural property, and the business asset disposals, 50% relief will apply above the 1 million combined.
Yeah.
We'll try to keep that as simple as possible.
Yeah,
obviously depend on where you are and what you've got in your portfolio.
I think the main takeaway on IHT is the pensions thing and the fact that the rates are generally remaining the same, but the pensions one's probably the one that's going to hit people.
Next thing.
Stamp duty, land tax. Well, what can we say? It's gone up 5% everywhere on every range.
Or only is the surcharge for second home.
The second home. Well, yeah, we say for everybody. I mean, there are the amount of people who you think are not potentially wealthy people who, for whatever reason, may have a second home.
True.
There are a lot of people out there now that have got more than one property for whatever reason, or are maybe going into the the property market. That's going to have a knock-on effect as well with some of the non-dom stuff and all that type of thing. The second homes in Cornwall or whatever it might be. I mean, I think that one's going to really
punchy, that one.
I think that's a bit punchy.
And it's applying tomorrow.
Yes, that kicks in straight away.
Halloween. It's a scare press for people with second homes.
Non-domiciled. Look, it was always heavily complicated, probably even more complicated than inheritance tax.
Yeah.
Look, they're going to scrap that. There was all this sort of stuff where you could say, oh look, I'll pay a small amount of tax, and I won't tell you what all my overseas earnings are. That's what the general remittance basis thing. You could pay a surcharge and not tell them everything you had. Whatever they replace it with, I cannot see that it's going to be particularly. It's going to probably still be complicated.
Well,
and for those, but the main point I think for those non-doms we've got to think about is in terms of them actually coming here and investing here and spending their money. So it'd be interesting to see.
It'll be the detail of taking all of this together. How do they feel about coming here, and are they still going to stay here?
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
And then I think our final one, which is actually, funny enough, coming back to businesses, because a lot of what we've just talked about there really
is the individual.
The stamp duty, land tax, people buy properties through companies, but you think it's a business, but it's really still the individuals. But the only real business one, I mean, we're not talking about rates and all sorts of things, but is the employers' NI, which we were expecting. We thought it was going to be a higher hit of them, I don't know, 3% or something like that. This is quite an interesting area because it's gone up.
1.2 percentage points.
Okay, so it's not 3%. So that that looks good. Well, it looks good. We didn't want it to happen for an employer, but maybe it's not too high.
As bad as it could be.
But then the threshold that it starts kicking in at has been hard, basically.
Yeah, 9,100 goes down to 5,000. So.
And then the employment allowance, which businesses got, which was 5,000, has gone up to 10,000. So. Look, without doing sort of a bunch of mathematical equations on this, I think the reality is you're a great big business, yeah? It's costing you more. Yeah. End of story.
Exactly.
Yeah? If you're and this is quite interesting in a little degree because she's probably trying to reach out to some of businesses.
Businesses like ours?
Maybe smaller. At the very small level, if you only got 2 or 3 employees, you might be thinking, oh great, the employment allowance has gone to 10,000. I mean, you might actually be it might actually be a benefit to you.
Yeah.
And then there's probably the ones in the middle who are going to be, I don't know, 500,000 to 1.5–2 mil turnover, and you're going to, where's it going to fall out? Have I done better or worse?
Well, and also yes, and it'll depend obviously on the amount of salary you have for your employees as well. Right?
Yeah.
So you could have 3 people on 20 grand a year, or you could have 3 people on 60 grand a year, and it's going to be quite different.
It is going to be quite different. And I think also, whatever they've done here, whatever the round figure comes out at on average, let's just say it was for 4% increase. I mean, it probably isn't quite that. What that's going to mean in real people's terms for the employees is you're probably not going to get the pay rise you thought you were going to get.
Well, because as an employer, now you've got to factor in that 3 or 4 percentage point increase in costs straight off from April next year. And do you want to hire the extra member staff, or do you want to pay extra to keep them? And that is going to be tricky. Of course, if you get growth and everyone's making lots of money, it's all a bit easier. But even then, with the cost base rising, there'll always come a marginal point where, for a business, it's just not worth having anyone extra on the payroll. That is probably got the biggest consequence for business. And all of this put together for the economy, I mean, if you aggregate up all of these decisions, it hurts people with capital, and it is a tax on jobs, really. Even though she's tried to minimise who it impacts, there is a tax on jobs there. So it's she's going to have to hope she gets growth from all the extra borrowing she's doing and all the investment she's going to make into hospitals and schools, which is what we heard a lot about.
Which we kind of decided we weren't then going to get into the conversations about her changes to how net debt's going to work, and
we'll do that on another.
Maybe we'll do that on
I'll tell you what, we'll do that on another one when we've sat down with the OBR's forecasts and the numbers, and we'll see.
Yeah.
But for now, how could we summarise this?
Look,
what does this look like to you?
I'm going through this and I'm thinking, income tax, okay, there's the fiscal drag, but it's
not as bad as it.
Okay. CGT, does it potentially affect people that are slightly more wealthy and rich? Yes.
Yes.
IHT, is it affecting People who are wealthier and rich,
yes.
with the pensions, with the businesses, the farms that are doing well, with the AIM investments, yes. Stamp duty, land tax. Well, you know, if you're in through a company, or it's, what is it, over 1.5 million value now, buying a second home or through a company, the stamp duty is 17%. You know, I'm again hitting individuals potentially
hitting the southeast, where homes are more valuable. Maybe they want to do that, but wealthy.
Employers NI hitting the wealthiest, best to do businesses. It's going to irritate the large, big businesses. They've tried with that to try and give something back to the little ones a little bit. They've tried a little bit with that. Tried. The non-dom stuff, I mean, you know, that's a harder one to determine at the moment. But I don't know. Yeah, for me, it felt a very Labour government thing. You know, in terms of just looking at these sorts of things, in terms of what they perhaps would do. But I mean, I don't know. More generally, you might have a more macro summary of it than
what we've heard is all the good bits. So over the next couple of days, we're going to. Everyone will be digging around to look at the bad bits, or the bits that are trickier. Rachel Reeves has a clear vision of what she thinks makes the economy grow, and we are now going to be living in her experiment to see if it actually works. But I think the one place that is going to benefit from all this is accountants, because you are going to need a lot of help to navigate this stuff.
I was going to say lawyers, but we shouldn't be promoting them either.
There you go, big winners, accountants and lawyers, and nobody with anything above £1 million.
Yeah, and I do like. I know it's complicated, but this net debt thing as well, and all that sort of. I did feel there was a thing, you know, a reliance there on like, hey, you know, if this doesn't all pan out well, you know, this is.
She's handing over a lot of the judgment on this to like arm's length bodies. She talks about the National Audit Office, the Office of Value for Money, and you know that is a classic political ploy to try and shift any kind of blame onto to them. Look, I think that you know. I actually don't think the British public are stupid, and once it's been dug around on all of this, it will be, I call it the countdown budget, where, you know, take 4 from the top and 2 from anywhere else. It's like, the problem if you do lots of tweaks to lots of things is you annoy a lot of people a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe don't annoy one group a lot. It can work, but it can also get you on the back foot if you've irritated more people rather than just annoyed one big group. So that's the political risk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. And you know the usual channels for getting in touch. So lovely to be back on air and speaking again. So thanks very much, Helen. And you know the usual channels: www.ridgefieldconsulting.co.uk
and at marketblonde, blondemoney.co.uk. Contact us too. Thank you.
Thank you.